Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Crypto Watch. Good evening. Yep, happy Sunday, everyone. Hope everyone is enjoying your Sunday so far. Right, so today we're actually going to talk about this alternate coin, right? That's fallen 63%, right, since mid of November 2021. Yep, and I will address which coin this is, right, and whether this is a good time to enter or should we actually continue to wait. Right. But if you're here online with me, right, if you're here live with me, right, do click on that like button so that I know that you are here live with me. Yep. Do give this video a like so that I know that you are here live with me. Right. So without further ado, let me go into the details, right? But for those of you who are watching me for the very first time, right, let me do a brief introduction about myself. Right. So I'm the trade engineer, right? TTE for short. Right, so I have over 6 to 7 years of trading experience. Right, I've traded numerous instruments, including stocks, futures, forex, and crypto. Right, and I've also helped numerous aspiring traders unlock their best trade and unleash the trading potential within them. And all this can be done using just some simple yet effective techniques. And as always, right, before I start the session proper, I'd like to give a few disclaimers down here. Right, so I would like to ensure accuracy of information as far as possible, but there will be no responsibility taken for any loss of inconvenience, right, taken or created by any omission or error. Right, the ideas here are just for reference and educational purposes only. The presentation today is also not intended to give any trading advice or recommendations to buy or sell any trading instruments. And me, the trade engineer, shall not have any liability taken for any loss or expense whatsoever, right? And all copyrights reserved. Now, with that out of the way, right, let's delve into the session proper, right? This alternate coin, right? Which coin is it? Right, any guesses, right? From the audience, right, who is watching? If you know which coin this is, like leave it in the comments below. Right. So this alternate coin, right, is none other than Litecoin, right? So I hope some of you might have known about Litecoin, right? LTC for short, right? So this is the coin we are going to talk about today, right? This coin is the main topic for today. So let me give you a brief introduction, right? For those of you who don't know what Litecoin is, right? Here is just some brief information on Litecoin. So what is Litecoin, right? So Litecoin is actually an early alternate coin, right? Developed by this guy called Charlie Lee, right? He used to be a Google engineer back in 2011, and it was at that time and it still is seen as a direct competitor to Bitcoin, right? In the sense that it is quicker and cheaper. How does it work? Right. So this Litecoin is actually a P2P virtual currency, right? Peer-to-peer virtual currency. And this Litecoin, right, its network actually offers instant zero cost payments, right? And uses proof of work or POW as a consensus mechanism. Right, and to give a further flavor, right, of what Litecoin is all about, right, I've actually consolidated a video taken from this YouTube channel called Whiteboard Crypto. You can actually check out his crypto channel, right? He actually uses a lot of animations, right, to illustrate some of the coins or some of the cryptocurrencies, right? So let me, give you a brief flavor. I thought this is a very good introduction on what Litecoin is all about.
In this video, we are going to explain what Litecoin is and how it works. First off, Litecoin is meant to be sound money that people use for everyday payments, where most people think that Bitcoin is meant to be a long-term store of value. For example, some people say that Litecoin should be like cash, where we use it every day. But Bitcoin is like that gold that's locked up in your grandpa's safe, something rare that is kept safe and only used for important purposes as it grows in value. Before we get into the technicalities of Litecoin, let's learn about the creator. Charlie Lee has enjoyed poker for a very long time. Understanding the technicals of how it worked and having quite an education, he landed himself a job as a software engineer at Google. Later on, he would become an engineering manager and then an engineering director of Coinbase from 2015 to 2017. So he already has a notable background. He initially created Litecoin to be a faster, cheaper, and more decentralized version of Bitcoin. We're going to skip a lot of the basic stuff like how proof of work works and what private and public keys are and get straight into what makes Litecoin different. But if anything confuses you, drop a comment below or check out some of the other videos on our channel as we might have already covered it. Let's go over how Litecoin actually achieves their faster speed, cheaper transactions, and better decentralization. First, Bitcoin has a block time of 10 minutes, meaning that all transactions are collected and then grouped together and put into a block in 10-minute sections. The next block has to wait 10 minutes until it is added to the blockchain. Litecoin cuts this down to 2.5 minutes, making it 4 times faster. Another area where Litecoin shines is how many transactions per second the network can handle. Bitcoin can only do around 5 transactions per second, roughly costing around $2 per transaction, but sometimes goes up to $10. Litecoin made some easy improvements and can actually process 54 transactions per second, and the cost of each transaction is down to a single penny or two. Next up, Litecoin is open source, just like Bitcoin. And open source means that anyone can take a look at the code that runs the network and make suggestions to it if they want. If the suggestion is good enough and more than half of all the miners approve of it, the code suggestion will be accepted. We suggest that you hit that like button down there, and if we hit 5,000 likes, we'll create an explanation video on a coin that's similar to Litecoin called Bitcoin Cash. Another similarity that Litecoin has to Bitcoin is that it can be broken down into 8 decimal places, where 0.000000001 Litecoin is called a photon, while the same amount of Bitcoin is called a Satoshi. Moving on, something big about Litecoin is that they were actually the first network to adopt and use the Lightning Network. Now, the Lightning Network is a layer 2 solution that allows users to make transactions in seconds almost for free and making payments much simpler. If you want to learn more about this layer 2 scaling solution, we actually have a whole video on the Lightning Network, and we'll leave it in a link below. One of the largest changes to Litecoin is the hashing algorithm that it uses. The hashing algorithm is actually the specific problem that the computer is trying to solve whenever they mine blocks. Oh, and by the way, Litecoin is a proof-of-work cryptocurrency, which basically means miners use their computing power to work really hard to guess the solution of the next block. Anyways, when Litecoin was created, miners on the Bitcoin network realized they could create special hardware to mine Bitcoins much faster. This advanced and specific hardware gave them an advantage because the hardware, called an ASIC, was very expensive, but is also much more efficient than a personal computer at solving the Bitcoin problem. Charlie Lee wanted to use a new hashing algorithm that evened the playing field again, so that miners could again competitively use their personal computers to participate and add blocks to the network. He decided on the script hashing algorithm. This meant that the blockchain was technically more decentralized, letting ordinary people with any old computer join the network and attempt to win some Litecoin as a reward for mining. Now, long story short, people quickly realized that they could create ASICs specifically to solve the script hashing algorithm as well. And now it is not very profitable to mine Litecoin with your computer. Interestingly though, you can do something called merge mining now. Merge mining is a technical term where you actually mine 2 cryptocurrencies with the same hardware without using any extra electricity. The second most popular cryptocurrency that uses the script hashing algorithm is Dogecoin, meaning most people mining Litecoin are also mining and earning Dogecoin as well. Also, the Litecoin Foundation is overwhelmingly operated by volunteers who support the project. Because of this, and the fair launch that we're going to mention soon, you won't see any expensive marketing budgets for Litecoin. If you've heard about it, it's because people in the community are passionate about it. Next up, let's talk about Litecoin's tokenomics. In my opinion, one of the best things about Litecoin is their tokenomics. Litecoin did no pre-launch or pre-mine or ICO. Instead, they launched very fairly, basically saying everyone can start mining Litecoin on this date. This way, miners were the ones who actually got the first batches of Litecoins. This is the exact way that Satoshi launched Bitcoin when it started. The bad news, though, is that Charlie sold all of his Litecoin during the peak of one of the bull runs. He claims that he did it to see how much of an influence he actually had over Litecoin, but many other investors are upset that he would dump all of his coins on the market at once and without any other good reason. Nevertheless, he still works on improving the protocol. Also, there will only ever be 84 million Litecoins ever created, exactly 4 times that of Bitcoin. Litecoin also follows the same 4-year halving schedule, where the mining rewards are cut in half every 4 years. And since all the transactions are public, we can actually check individual wallets and see that there aren't very many whale wallets, as most of the largest ones are known exchange companies. In terms of price, overall, Litecoin has pretty much followed the price of Bitcoin closely, as it's very close to being the same thing with some minor differences that include different use cases. So it's going to be interesting to see where Litecoin will be in 10 years with the development of many new Layer 2 solutions. I think that about wraps it up for Litecoin. There's not very many differences between it and Bitcoin.
Right. Yes. So that is a quick introduction, right, of Litecoin, right? So actually, it actually encompasses, most of the key points, like of Litecoin, right? What is the characteristic? What are the advantages? And what is it all about? Right. So I hope you gleaned something from this video, and let's move on. Right. So further introduction, right, on Litecoin, right? So actually, right, Litecoin is actually one of the most widely held cryptocurrencies, right? It's actually, based on this article, it's actually ranked number 3, right, just after Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So this is just based on this article, which was very recent, back in January 25, right, this year. So this also shows, right, that there is some confidence, right, crypto investors have in this particular coin, right, this Litecoin, right? And there is also some recent developments as well, right? The Union Bank of Philippines have also, taken Litecoin as one of the digital currencies, right? So that is, something positive about Litecoin, and we shall see other positive catalysts, right, for this particular coin. Right, and there are other catalysts that is affiliated to this Litecoin, right? There is more increasingly, right, it is getting accepted by e-commerce as well, right? And the Litecoin team is also working to bring in more products to the Litecoin ecosystem, right, including NFT and gaming. Right, so this sounds very positive for this coin, right? There seems to be a lot of potential for this particular coin. And if we look at the market cap, right, of Litecoin, right, so this is a recent screenshot I took, from the recent market cap for all the different coins, right? And if we go down the list, we can actually find that Litecoin is ranked number 22, right, based on market capitalization, right? So it's actually, quite a fair bit, quite, one of the big fields, right, in the cryptocurrency world. Right. So once again, right, I urge all you to actually, give this video a like or a love, right, if you are enjoying this sharing so far. Right, and moving on, right, here is the price chart for Litecoin, right? So let's see, right, what has happened for Litecoin in the years, right, since back in 2021 up till now. Right, so you can see that, back in 2021, right, it was, actually increasing, right, increasing very steeply, right, all the way to its all-time high, right, somewhere around $400+, right, and that is actually, it actually hit this that near its all-time high on the 10th of May, right, 2021, at a price of about $412 US, right, but ever since then it has come down, right. It came down and then it rose back up, right, and hit another peak on 10th of November 2021, about $295.1 US. And ultimately, right, ever since then, it has come crashing down, right? And eventually now, today, right, or not today, but a few days ago, on 8th of April, it was actually trading at only $110, right, $110.7 US. Right, so we work out the math, this decrease from this peak to, down here, right, is actually a 63% decrease, right? That is what I mentioned in my heading right below. Right, so the question here, right, is why, right? What happened? Why did it actually rise, so steeply, fall back down, rise back again, and then now it's, back down, Is there actually opportunity? Will it actually rise back up in future? Right, so let's, see some of the reasons, right, for all this price action. So we have to go back in time, right, to 2021, right, the price history of Litecoin. And this was taken from this article, capital.com, right? And it actually basically gives a good summary, right, of what has happened in the years since 2021. Right. So back in 2021, right, there was this particular development on 30th of March, right, where this Litecoin was actually accepted, on PayPal, right? So this was a huge catalyst for the coin, right? Because PayPal is widely used, right, worldwide, right? So the fact that it was accepted on PayPal, right, actually caused it to soar, right? It caused the coin to soar very rapidly, right? In fact, you can see the price, it went from $194 all the way to $310, right? In just less than 1 month, right? Actually, just 17 days. Right. Additionally, there's another news at that time, right? This CoinShare Capital Market, right? This digital asset manager, right? It was launching, a cryptocurrency ETP, right? An exchange traded product, right? And this offering actually included Litecoin, right? This new Litecoin ETP, right? So that was also another positive catalyst at that time that caused the price to actually swell up so tremendously. Right. So, eventually we hit that near all-time high, right, at more than $400, right? But ever since then, it's crashed, right? It's actually fallen back down, right? And this was attributed to the whole wider market, right? Because if you look at all the cryptocurrencies then, right, they all have fallen, right? So that was some basically due to the macro news, right, of cryptocurrency, right? People are losing confidence in cryptocurrency as a whole. At that time, there was some negative news surrounding the market involving increased regulations and so on and so forth, right? So that actually dragged the Litecoin as well, right? Because it dragged all the cryptocurrencies down. In fact, right, this was quite a big correction, right? It actually shed 50% of its value, right? And there was another boost late in August, right, in 2021, right? So and actually there's this payment app, right, called Venmo, right? So it announced that its users can now receive cashback, right? Cashback rewards in Litecoin, right? But however, right, this did not really have much influence, right? Only giving a small 12% increase in price. Yep, and there was this. You have been following the news, right? There was a press release at that time as well about Walmart accepting Litecoin payments, but it was eventually proven to be a hoax, right? It was dismissed by Walmart as a fake news, right? But there was before it was dismissed, right? The price actually went up and quickly returned back to normal, right? So there was that particular price action at that time as well. So now fast forward to 2022, right? This year, right? And let's see what happened in 2022, right? This year. So early in this year, January, right? The crypto whales, right? The big players for cryptocurrency, right? They have been buying up, right? Litecoin, right? Over the past, 15 weeks. That's a huge amount of time, right? So this actually created a very positive sentiment for this coin, right? When this news came out, right? Because people might think, oh, the whales are buying, right? So there could be something big coming up for this coin, right? There could be some positive development, right? Otherwise, why would the whales buy this coin, right? But they were just a speculation, right? Eventually, 1 week later, no one saw any developments, and the price fell back down, right, to about $141, right? And then there was this January flash crash, right, that also affected all the cryptocurrencies, right? So it also lost value at that time, right, and it went below $100, right? And in the end of January 31st Jan, right? There is this group right behind Litecoin, the Litecoin Foundation, right? They actually launched its MWEB upgrade, right? The Mimblewimble upgrade, right? And what this upgrade is all about, it is supposed to provide security enhancements, right, around the privacy of transactions on the blockchain. Right, so this is actually good, right, because it actually means that there is increased security and privacy, right, for this particular coin. Right, and it will actually position this Litecoin as one of the most sound currency in the world, right, because it gives the user notable and much needed protections, right, for almost everything, right, from salaries to even buying a home, right. So this actually was some positive catalyst to this particular coin, this Litecoin, and it went up about 5%, right, at that time. Right, and just now we mentioned there was some news in the whole macro cryptocurrency, right? So what are this news all about, right? So in 2022, that flash crash, right, that I mentioned in January, right? So eventually that was actually attributed, right, to this uncertainty, right? So this is actually taken from Yahoo News, right? And what it mentioned, right, is that because there's this uncertainty brought about by new COVID-19 variants, right? And whether it is also unknown, right, whether the retail investors are actually buying the dip or actually cutting their losses. So this is something that they postulate, right? Some uncertainty in the market that cause people to sell out, right? And back in 2021, right, there was also that crypto crash as well, right? The whole crypto market actually went down, right? And that why it happened is also due to other reasons, right? This article taken on fool.com mentioned that some reasons, right, for this crash, right, is because of this harsh crackdown, right? If you're reading the news, there was this harsh crackdown on cryptocurrency mining in China, right? So in fact, right, at that time, there was one communist party leader that was actually expelled from the party because of his support of cryptocurrency. And China also suggested that crypto miners might actually be forced to pay punitive energy prices, right? So that will add the cost of mining, of crypto mining, and that is also some negative news for the whole cryptocurrency, right, as a whole. So that is also one of the reasons why we saw that crash, last year, right, in November. Right. So this was some of the reasons for the negativity surrounding the whole crypto market. So we do have to be mindful of that, right? When we are, trading or investing in cryptocurrency, right? We do have to be mindful of the bigger news, right, surrounding the cryptocurrency market. Right. And let's go through, some pros and cons, some positives and negatives of Litecoin, right? So over here, I have some articles, I snip out from the internet, right? So over here, right, is taken from cryptoeq.io, right? And one of its what is mentioned here, right, some of its strengths, right? So what it mentioned here, right, is Litecoin, as what I mentioned in the video we have heard earlier, right? It has some strong network effects, right? High liquidity, right? Because there is a lot of volume traded, right? It is listed on almost every single exchange, right? So that is good, especially if you're thinking of trading this coin, right? Because if when we trade, we want liquidity, right? Otherwise, you'll be just stuck there and the price would not move, right? And Litecoin is also a leader in brand recognition, right? Because it's highly affiliated to Bitcoin, right? In fact, as what we heard in the video just now, right? It is like another alternative for Bitcoin, right? So it is when Bitcoin move up, Litecoin also move up. So it is kind of following Bitcoin in some sense, right? And that's how it got some brand recognition as well. There's some mainstream media coverage, and it has also a long track record, right, since it launched in 2011, right, quite some time ago. In fact, it's more than a decade now, right? And since Litecoin is so similar to Bitcoin, right, the technical upgrades and improvement can be actually tested on Litecoin first, right, before implemented by Bitcoin. So this has also prompted Bitcoin developers, right, to actually contribute to Litecoin code base and community over the years, right? So it has some effect, right? So Bitcoin developers also come over to Litecoin and help boost up the Litecoin code base. Right, and you know, as what we all know already, Litecoin is faster and cheaper, right? So it has the advantage over Bitcoin. Right, but what are some of the cons, right? What are some of the disadvantages of Litecoin? Right, so over here, right, we have the weaknesses of Litecoin. Right, so you know, Litecoin, you know, use case within the cryptocurrency space remains very vulnerable, right? Because you know it cannot match some of its SOV properties of Bitcoin, right? SOV means store of value, you know, or some of the stabilities and speed of new stablecoin, right? So there are stablecoins coming up, right? And it might not be able to match up to these alternatives, right? So you know, one of the value proposition of Litecoin is its scaling, right? Issue because it can offer as a faster and cheaper alternative. But if Bitcoin actually successfully solve this scaling issue, then there's no need to actually go Litecoin, right? Because Bitcoin is advantageous already in that sense. So if Bitcoin actually managed to solve this scaling issue, right, the advantage of Litecoin being faster and cheaper, you know, might not be, you know, very good in that sense, right? Advantage might actually be eroded, right? And you know, there is all those projects on stablecoin, right? And it is increasing, right? So this influx of stablecoin projects might actually threaten Litecoin use case as a stable medium of exchange, right? And you know, if you look at the wealth centralization, right, of Litecoin, it is actually higher, right, than as compared to Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. Yep, and you know what we mentioned in the video just now, right? One of the initial selling point was the ASIC resistance, right? But it has since abandoned that goal, right? So whether that is something that is a huge selling point, but you know, if it isn't really going for that, then it is, you know, that major selling point might actually be eroded. Right, and you know, some of the development project might be stagnant, right, compared to some other top projects. So these are just some of the weaknesses cited by this article, right? So we have to do our due diligence on whether this coin is actually worth trading or investing. Right, this is, you know, to be more impartial, to get the more balanced view, right? I got another article, right, on its evaluation of its pros and cons as well. Right, so this is another article taken from capital.com, right? So over here, right, it has mentioned some of the pros, right, of Litecoin. So similarly, he also mentioned that it has strong liquidity, right? And also similarly, in terms of performance, he also mentioned that it's faster and cheaper, right? And it has a comparative advantage in retail use, right? Although it has advantage, but you know, it hasn't quite happened yet, right? So if it actually takes off in the retail, right, there could be immense potential, and this coin might actually soar. Right, but you know, there are some cons as well as noted by this article, right? Based on the article, it mentioned that, you know, brand awareness, you know, might not be that good, right? A bit different from the previous article, right? This article feels that, you know, this Litecoin isn't, you know, really widely recognized, right? So different people have different opinion, right? So this is the opinion of that author itself, right? And you know, over here, you also mentioned that Litecoin is also losing some market share, right? Although it's liquid, right? Actually, the number of people investing in Litecoin is actually shrinking relative to the rest of the market, right? So this is a concern, right? It is losing market share, you know, to other, you know, cryptocurrencies, right? We do have to see whether this trend persists, right? But as of now, you know, it still seems like Litecoin has still quite a bit of market share, right? So that is still good, at least for now. Yep. And you know, as what I mentioned in the video earlier, right? We have seen earlier, right? We have known that the founder, right, Charlie Lee, right, who actually has already sold all his Litecoin, right? So if you know the founder, you know, of the company or founder of a coin, right, actually sold all his holdings, you know, that is something not very positive for the particular coin, right? Because it doesn't mean it kind of implies that he doesn't really have confidence in a coin, or he thinks that this coin might not have any long-term potential, right? Although he did mention that he sold his coin to avoid a conflict of interest, right? But you know, that could be his point of view, but essentially the whole market, right, might not feel very positive about him selling up all his holdings, right? So that was also some negativity for this particular coin. Right, and at this juncture, right, just I pause again and urge everyone, if you are finding value so far, do give this video a like or a love, right? So that I'll continue sharing such content with you every week. Right, and let's move on to some prediction, right, of Litecoin prices. Right, so I've taken some price prediction from various websites, right? So all these, we have to take with a pinch of salt, right? Because this might not really pan out in reality, right? But they do offer some clues of what might happen, right? What do other people think, right? So just to get some opinion from other analysts, right, or some other people on the internet. So what are some of the price predictions made by some people, right? So for this particular website, right, it actually mentioned that Litecoin predictions were actually neutral in the short term, right? In fact, they actually consolidated some data, right, and showed that there were 19 technical indicators giving bullish signals and 14 indicating the bearish side. So actually, it seems like there's no more bullish signs than bearish signs, right? And but in the short term, it is probably neutral according to this article. Maybe a slight increase to 9%, right, was their short-term prediction. But if you pan out the long-term basis, like up to 2026, right, it is actually making some predictions here as well for 2026. But we do have to take note, right, that there is that halving event, right, that was mentioned in the video as well, right? So usually, right, this halving event might cause the crypto value to rise. But this article actually predicted that this midterm outlook is still not very positive, right? Might not be very, quite muted in that sense, right? It actually predicted maybe about $86 to 107, so it's not much different from the current trading price, right? And move forward to 2030, right? It actually forecasting a very enormous increase, right, to 644 to 676 in 2030. Right? Whether this will pan out in reality remains to be seen. But as what I mentioned again, do take this with a pinch of salt only, right? This might not really pan out in reality. Right. And this is another price prediction, right, from this screener, beatscreener.com, right, where it actually gives some prediction, like based on statistical model, right? So over here, right, it actually uses the present prices of Litecoin and tries to predict what could be the future prices for Bitcoin, or for Litecoin, sorry, for this matter. Right, so actually you can see that Litecoin is projected to increase, right? Basically, I think it's just modeling the same price pattern over here. So there are two peaks here, and then they also predicting that there may be two peaks in future, right? But overall, it seems like it is increasing. It might be an increasing trend, right, for Litecoin. But whether this pan out again in reality remains to be seen. So what does the future hold for Litecoin, right? Let's delve in the technical details without further ado, right? But before we do so, right, once again, do give this video a like or a love, right, if you're enjoying my sharing so far. Right. So let's quickly delve into the technical analysis for Litecoin, right? So over here, we have the daily chart for Litecoin. Right? I have drawn a few lines over here, right? Some downtrend lines, some uptrend lines, and some horizontal lines. Right. So let's go through one by one. Right. So first of all, we have this uptrend line. Right. So you can see that it has been tested a few times before, and now it's testing this uptrend line again. Right. So it is supported for now. Right. The question here is whether it can remain convincing supported. Right. If it is convincing supported, right, there might be a bounce up. But if not, right, if it actually breaks down, then you could find a next support level, right? It could fall down even further. Right. And we have this downtrend line, right? It was tested numerous times in the past as well, right? Very recently as well. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? A few times here. Right. So so now currently it is still trading below this downtrend line. right? So the downward momentum is still persisting, right? In order to see higher highs, right, we do have to see a breakout from this downtrend line, right? If not, right, this could be the major resistance point, right, that the price might be resisted by, and it might fall back down after hitting this line. So that's something to watch out for as well. Right, and we then have this horizontal line, right, at about 121 US dollars. Right, so it used to be a support previously, right, support here as well, and support here as well, right, before it actually broke through, right. So now currently it's trading below this line, and it has turned from support to resistance, right. So eventually, right, it has to break this immediate horizontal resistance, right, before we can actually see higher upside for this particular coin, right. So that's something to watch out for as well. And daily MACD, right? The MACD has actually turned increasingly negative, right, recently. So that is a bit bearish for this coin, right? We do have to see the gap closing out and eventually going positive for the upside to return, right? If not, if it continues to be negative, right, there might be bearish momentum continuing for this particular coin. Right. And we zoom in, right, on a shorter time scale, right, specifically on the 4-hour time scale, right. So this is the Litecoin of 4-hour time scale. We do see other interesting things as well, right. So first of all, right, we do see some slight bullish divergence, right. So over here, you can see price is forming a lower low, right. That is usually a bearish indication, right. But interestingly, we also see RSI, right, also showing a higher low, right? So it is different, right? Price forming lower low and RSI forming a higher low, right? So that is an indication, right? There could be some bottoming out, at least on the short-term time basis, right? So that is something positive, right? Whether this might lead to a rebound in prices, right, remains to be seen, right? It has to be supported by this uptrend line, right? And the short-term MACD, specifically the 4-hour MACD, right? It also show some positive signs, right, in terms of positive region, right? And it is turning increasingly positive, right, recently. So if this positive, if this MACD remains positive, right, there could be further upside for this particular coin. Right. So to conclude, right, consolidating all these, different indicators and patterns, right? What is my suggestion, right? So over here, this is my own suggestion, right? Do your own due diligence, right? My strategy might not suit everyone, right? So if you are a short to mid-term trader, right, what you can do is you can initiate a long position, right, or a buy order for Litecoin, right? If you see that the uptrend line actually remains supported, right? And we can put a cut loss, right, slightly below that previous low, right, about 109 US dollars, right? And since this is a short-term trade, right, we can set our take profit, at the first, resistance point, right, at about 121 US dollars, and we can set another second take profit price at the downtrend line. Right. But if it actually breaks above these two levels, right, it might have further upside, and we can consider adding positions, right, if this downtrend line actually is cleared convincingly. Right. So this is just my own suggestion. Let's see how it pan out in the following weeks to months. Right. And that concludes, my analysis for Litecoin, right, on a technical side. So, once again, right, if you have found value in my sharing so far, do give this video a like or a love, right? All right, and let's move on to the last part of this presentation, right? Which is none other than Bitcoin, right? Let's review Bitcoin once again. Right? And if you haven't done so already, do check out my past analysis, right, in my previous videos. And let's quickly go through a quick recap, right, of what I mentioned last week, right, just to jog everyone's memory. Hello everyone. Sorry, I think I got disconnected. Let me replay that video again. All right. Yes. Yep. Sorry for that. Yep. I hope you can still hear me, right? So yeah, that's a quick recap, right, of what I mentioned last week for Bitcoin, right? And it's on my TikTok channel, right? So you can follow me there, right, at The Trade Engineer, right? Yep. And once again, do give this video a like or a love. Right. So let's quickly go through, right, what I mentioned last week, right, as what I showed in the TikTok video. Right, so I did mention about this level, right, at 45,300 to 45,500, right? So that was corresponding to this line over here, right, this middle line, right, shown down here, right? So you're previously a resistance, right? But it became, the support, right, the last time I talked about this, last week, right? And we asked whether this will actually remain supported, right? The uptrend line, right? The uptrend line, it actually, threatened to break below this line, and we asked whether it will actually remain supported, right? The horizontal resistance at this top level over here, about 48,000, right? Whether it can clear for further upside, right? And we had this bottom horizontal line, right, at 42,500 to 42,600, right? And that is the support level, right? If let's say the uptrend line and the first horizontal support actually breaks. Right, and the MACD, right? It was positive then, right? And but it was, gap was narrowing, right? Right, and then RSI, right? It was also, appearing to be oversold as well, right? So that was some of the concerns or some of the things we highlighted last week, right, for Bitcoin. And what I suggested then was, if you're a high risk taker, you could initiate a long position, right? Provided the uptrend line support remains supported convincingly. But if you're lower risk, right, you might want to wait for more confirmation, right, in terms of clearance of the horizontal resistance. But then again, I also did mention that the upside might be actually limited, right, because MACD gap is narrowing, right, and the RSI approaching oversold levels. So let's see what happened, right, this week, right, the updated 7 days of trading, right, since last week. So first of all, right, that support, right, that level, this middle level, right, at 45,300 to 45,500, you can see that it actually broke below, right? It did not hold, right? That's the first thing we saw, right? It actually came down. The uptrend line, right? Similarly, the uptrend line did not hold as well, right? It actually broke below this uptrend line as well. Horizontal resistance at the upper level for the 8,000, right? It continued to trade below this line. And the second support level that I mentioned, about 42,500 to 42,600, right? So it actually was spot on, right? You see, after it broke the uptrend line as well as the first horizontal support, it immediately come down and hit this second support, right? And now currently it is trading at around this support level, right? So this was pretty spot on, right? In that sense. Right? And you can see that daily MACD has actually turned negative, right? That also shows some bearishness for this Bitcoin. And RSI, right? After I mentioned about that oversold level, right? It actually dropped back, right? After briefly touching the oversold level. So what's the conclusion, right? How has it panned out, right? Since my last analysis last week, right? So actually did not turn bullish, right? So those of you who actually, are high risk taker and actually initiated or added long position, you might have to take a small cut loss, unfortunately, right? But it did pan out in terms of the part on breaking uptrend line as well as the first horizontal support, right? So what I mentioned was that if it break the uptrend line and the first horizontal support, right, it might, move on, it might come down and find the next support level at about 42,500 to 42,600. And that's what it exactly did, right? Broke, uptrend line, horizontal support, come down and hit that second support level. So, if you have actually long it and then you saw it break, you might actually, initiate a short position, right? And if you initiate a short position at about 45,300 and cover back at about 42,600, so a short position meaning you sell first and you buy back later, right? You could actually gain about 6%, right? So you could have more than cover back your long losses and actually earn some profit as well. Right, so that was a good point, right? That it actually went according to trade plan, right? It didn't become bullish, but the bearish part of it was according to plan. And what does the future hold, right, for Bitcoin, right? So let's go through some of the other points, right, for the future, right? And that's something you might all be very interested in, right? What to look out for in the very near future. So this Bitcoin, the daily chart, right? So first of all, we have to draw a new uptrend line since the uptrend line broke, right? So now you can see that this uptrend line is being tested again, right? It is trading just above this uptrend line, right? So we do have to see whether this remains convincingly supported, right? If it is, right, it might bounce up. If not, it might break down, right? So we do have to see whether it's convincingly supported here. Right, and we have this, level, right? This support level, right, which I mentioned just now, 42,500 to 42,600. Right, so now it's also testing this line as well, this support, and whether it can be convincingly supported remains the question, right? If it is, right, it can bounce up as well, right? If not, you have to be wary that it might break down further, right? And that level, right? We have to be mindful that if it breaks down, right, we could be seeing another support level, right? So the next support level to watch out for, right, is actually around 40,000, right, corresponding to the previous resistance, right, previously, right, but now it would be the support to watch out for, right? So if it doesn't hold, right, the uptrend line doesn't hold, this support level doesn't hold, right, we might be seeing it come down to 40,000, right, as the next support level. Right, but on the upside of things, right, the resistance, right, so the resistance now it becomes, the first resistance becomes 45,300 to 45,500, right. So if it actually bounces up, right, it might hit, might be resisted by this first resistance point first, right. So if it breaks past the first resistance point, it can go up for further upside, right. If not, it might actually hit it and come back down, right. So that's something to take note of as well. And if it actually clears that first resistance point, then we should be looking for the next resistance point, which is about 48,000, right? So that is provided this first resistance line actually clears convincingly, right? So that's on the upside of things. But MACD, right, as what I mentioned just now, it is negative, right? So we do have to see it, the gap narrowing and eventually cross over in the positive region for the upside to continue, right? If it continues to be negative, Bitcoin might continue to be bearish, right? The bearish momentum might still continue. Yep, and if we look at a shorter time scale, right, for Bitcoin in terms of the 4-hour time scale, right, we also notice the interesting thing, right? So similarly, just like Litecoin, right, we also see some bullish divergence, right, on the shorter time scale, right, where we see lower prices, right, and higher RSI, right? So there could be some bottoming out in the short term, but we do have to be mindful, right? We do have to check that uptrend line, right, to see whether it remains supported. And the short-term MACD, right, it also has just turned positive as well, right? And if it continues to remain positive, that could be a very good sign, at least on the short-term basis. Right, that's a quick, analysis of Bitcoin, right? So hope you have gleaned something from my sharing of Bitcoin. And once again, right, if you have found value in my sharing so far, right, do give this video a like or a love, right, so that I'll continue sharing such content with you every week. Right. And what before I end off, for the night, right? I know it's quite late already. Let me give you a few reminders, right? As always, right? So I have a Facebook group, right? That I have the handle is shown here at tte.the.trade.engineer, right? Where I share other resources, right? As well as some of my sharing of other instruments, right? So if you're interested in stocks, or futures or forex, you can also join me there, right? But do answer the membership questions there before applying. Right. And for those of you who are joining me for the very first time, right, you can follow me on some of my social media pages, right? So I have Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, as well as my new TikTok channel, right? So you can follow me on any of these channels, right, where I shall give you quality content, every day, every week, right? I'll try to, right? And once again, right, before I end off my sharing for today, right, don't forget to click the like or the love button, right, and leave a comment, right, in the video, in the comment box below, right, on what you think of my sharing today, right, and what do you like me to share next week, right? If you have any suggestions, right, do leave it in the comments as well, right. And if this is beneficial to you, right, and you hope that someone else might benefit as well, do share this video, right, to someone whom you think might benefit, right? And with that, right, I've come to the end of today's presentation, right? I hope all you have gleaned something useful from this session. Yep, and thank everyone for taking time to watch this presentation today. With that, I wish everyone good luck, a very good week ahead, right, for trading or investing, and see you guys, next Sunday at the same time at 9:30 p.m. Right. See you guys and good night.